All right. Hey, good morning, man. It's a brand new week, man. I'm looking forward to it. We had a great weekend this weekend. Hope you guys did. Man, Saturday, Tammy and I kind of went around, got some coffee at a little coffee shop in Homewood, and man, there's a new coffee shop that's in Birmingham called Biddy and Bose, and I'm looking forward to going there. It had grand opening Saturday. We were heading there, but it was so packed. But it's a it's a coffee shop staffed with Down syndrome, autistic, challenged kids or adults, and I'm looking forward to just seeing that and supporting that in operation. So. We're gonna make our way there sometime. I hope this week and see what's going on there. Yesterday we had a great morning at church restoration gathering, and then last night we had our first Envision gathering for Simple Church, Simple Gatherings, or Simply Church. And so it was good. It was rich. It was fun, just sharing a vision of what church could look like, and to imagine. It's an evening church, so just imagining what that could be like, and what church ought to be. So it was a great weekend. And so now, man, I'm ready to jump into some truth. And we are in Luke chapter 11. And we're coming really to this. After this, Jesus is going to be beginning to just teach. And so I'm looking forward to just kind of walking through more of his teachings. This is some interaction that he's having here. Actually, this kind of begins the teaching that we look at today. And so we're just going to kind of jump into it. I've titled this, "It's About Sight, Not Light." And you'll get the reason for that as we walk through this text. I want to Mondays are always a time where I just kind of need to rehash for you what has taken place in that sense. And so it's important for us as we talk about this light and sight, that because he's going to speak to us about light and darkness, and it's not really a parable, but some people go, man, I'm not sure what he means there. And so we're just going to break that down. It's important for us to understand that he uses terms like light and dark because light reveals things, darkness conceals things, right? We talk about, I'm going to do something under the cover of darkness. Means that it's easier to do what we do in the dark. That's why most military attacks happen at night. That's why burglars come at night, right? All of those stalkers, they're at night. All of that happens there, and because darkness has this concealing issue, light reveals those things. And so that David used that metaphor in his own psalm when he said, "The Lord is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path." Right? He means there that, and the Word of God lights his way. It helps him see right, wrong, holy, unholy, righteous, wicked. Right? All of those things. And so the context here of this passage is, well, let me read the passage so we're clear on it, and then we'll kind of review the thing. "No one lights a lamp and puts it away in a cellar, nor under a basket, but on the lampstand, so that those who enter may see the light. Your eye is the lamp of your body. When your eye is clear, your whole body is full of light. But when it is bad, your body was also full of darkness. So watch out that the light in you is not darkness. Therefore, if your whole body is full of light without any dark part, it will be wholly illuminated as when the lamp illuminates you with its light." Right? Simple. Simple little statement. Let's just kind of break it down. Now, the context is that the Pharisees were in darkness, right? They were in denial. They had seen all of the works of Jesus. I mean, we've been hashing this out all last week. We talked about that, right? They saw them all. I mean, they saw him turn water into wine. They saw him feed the 5,000 and the miraculous creation of food in his hands as he began to divide that up. They saw him raise the widow's son out of the casket on the way to a funeral as he was coming in the gate and they were going out. They heard about Jairus' daughter and him raising her. They heard about the woman with the issue of blood and him healing her, the leper and him being healed, the blind that could see, the lame that could walk. They saw all of those things. They heard the great truth that he shared. They saw all of that. And after all they saw, they couldn't see that Jesus was God. So what do? Well, we need a sign, right? Why could they not see Well, they had a choice. They could either see and believe that he did the works by the power of God, which was easy to see for anyone who was just looking, or if they didn't like that choice, then they would have to say, well, he's doing it by the power of Satan. If it was by the power of God, then he was right and they were wrong, and their religiosity, their self-righteousness had no effect. So that's when they reply, well, give us a sign then, right? Because they're going to, it's got to be Satan. Why? Because their eye is dim, their eye is defective, and so they can't see the light. It's there. Everyone else can see it. There were plenty of people who saw Jesus for who he was, but then their eyes were darkened. So when that light came in, the eyes themselves distorted what they were seeing, so that it didn't get into the body. It's like what happens to someone who's blind. I've got a dear friend of mine, his face, she's going blind, and she sees kind of cloudy and everything. Well, everything is right and precise. The lines are sharp on what her eyes are looking at. The issue isn't the sharpness and all of that. It's how her eye perceives it, and it sees it in a fuzzy way so that she can't identify things. And it only gets worse as that blindness goes. Then it shrinks, and at some point you see nothing but black, right? And so this is where he's going with this statement. But they ask for a sign, right? Now, they thought themselves to be a bright light. They did. I mean, in fact, Jesus, reminds them that they think they're a light to the blind. He said, but they're really just the blind leading the blind, if you will. He had just called them a wicked generation. You wicked generation. Now, why were they wicked? They were wicked because they were blind, because they refused to see what was obvious. Nineveh, it was plain to the Gentiles, those people that you like to call, blind and Jew dogs and all of that are Gentiles, the scum of the earth, just dogs. Yet Nineveh could see Jonah, hear his story, and their eyes were bright enough because they weren't so self-absorbed that they couldn't see that what Jonah was saying was truth, and that they were wicked people. And so the king of Nineveh had everybody repent and fast, and even the animals were required to fast in his day. Queen of Sheba, same thing. She came and she saw the wealth and wisdom of Solomon, and she knew that this was not something that a human could do, that this was this was by the hand of God. And so it changed her life. Though she had everything in the world, she knew she didn't have what Solomon had. And she wasn't looking for money. She was looking for that wisdom that he had. They were wicked because they refused to see. See, it's not an issue with more revelation. It's more evidence. Those things won't do it. More revelation, more evidence. It's not more light that they need. It's an issue of sight. It's how you see what you see. They didn't want to see themselves. So when Jesus says, "Blessed are the poor," right, and he goes through that litany, they despised that. He was calling them what they like to call the Gentiles: that you're poor, that you're in bondage, that you're blind, that you're oppressed, and you need salvation. That's the message of the Sermon on the Mount. That was the whole point. And they didn't like it. They hated that. And so there was light among them, but they chose not to perceive it, not to see it. Self-righteousness, because they love their sin. That's how John describes it in John 3. That's how they love their sin. And so self-righteousness equals blindness. Morality equals blindness. This is where he's going. Does this make sense to us before we begin to just kind of break this thing down? So in Matthew 15, he says they're the blind leading the blind, right? And so they think they have sight. Man, Tammy and I years ago we're skiing out in Colorado, and she was kind of struggling here and there, just working through some things, and we had slowed down because it's exhausting sometimes skiing when you don't ski a lot. And so we had kind of just rested for a minute, and we could hear coming behind us a man speaking in kind of a loud voice, and he would bark out certain orders. And we looked around, and it was a whole troop of blind skiers coming down the mountain. And they had to pay close attention to what this man was saying, because when he told them to turn, then they would. And anyway, they were skiing. I mean, Tammy and I were like, we can see and can't ski as well as they can ski. The reason why was because they had a guide who was a light in that sense. He could see. But had you put a blind person in front to lead down that mountain, it would have been a whole different story. And so when Jesus says they are the blind leading the blind, he means they're just a bunch of bumbling, foolish people falling down a mountain, so to speak. That's what's happening. They think that they're this great leader, and all they're doing is causing people to stumble and fall. And so this is the story that Jesus is getting ready to unfold for us. And so this is why it comes where it does. Does that make sense? Because he's like, they think that they've got this light and they understand everything, and they've just judged that Jesus is of Satan and he's not of God. And Jesus is like, man, all right, well, I mean, if you say so, but Nineveh would tell you different. Queen of Sheba would tell you different. They saw a small light and repented. The true light that gives light to all men is right here in front of you, and you can't see it. So then he says this: no one lights a lamp and puts it away in a cellar, nor under a basket, but on the lampstand, so that those who enter may see it. Right? I mean, it's pretty obvious, right? You light a light so people can see. Right? I mean, that's what happens. Power goes out. What do? You grab candles. You grab flashlights. If you have a generator, that's cheating. But, I mean, that's how some people work it too. But for most people, right, it's a lamp. It's a light. It's a candle. And you don't just kind of put it down in the basement or out in the garage and think that it's going to light everything there is. It's not going to do it. You don't light it and then set it under the kitchen table. You light it and you put it on something high enough so that the light can kind of permeate and make and fill the whole room, right? So that you don't stumble. This is Jesus. He is that light, right? God in the flesh. The presence of light is there. Jesus has been set on a table, right? People in darkness, this is how Isaiah refers to it. The people in darkness will see a great light. That was him prophesying what was going to happen when Jesus came. John says that Jesus was the light. Right? And so he begins to speak about that. But men love darkness rather than light. And so there's something brighter, Jesus is saying, than Jonah here. You liked his sign. There's something brighter than Solomon and his wealth and wisdom, and you like that. The light is so people can see. And Jesus says, I came that men might see their wickedness, see their sinfulness, see their need to repent. That's why Jesus came, right? To show the contrast. This is what true righteousness, true holiness looks like. It looks like Jesus. And therefore, if I look at what he's doing and I look at my life and I see his humility and I realize mine is pride, if I see his gentleness and mine is control, and I see that he is unmoved by his circumstances like the storm that raged while he slept, but yet I get frazzled by it. If I see that he's unmoved by people, he doesn't have people that he hates and despises. He called Judas himself his friend, but yet I have this hatred toward people and I'm moved by them and they make me mad and all of those things. Well, then I have to realize that I'm not what that light is. I'm not that. So this is what Jesus is saying. The light is here. It's come to you. No one lights a lamp and puts it away in a cellar, nor under a basket, but on a lampstand, so that those who enter may see the light. Now, then he gives them a biology lesson. Your eye is the lamp of your body. When your eye is clear, your whole body also is full of light. But when it is bad, your body also is full of darkness, right? It's a sight issue. I don't have a light issue. I have an eye issue. The problem is not light, it's sight, right? It's not revelation, it's perception. You don't want to perceive Jesus as who he is. So you take on this self-righteousness, this idea that I don't need him, and there's blindness there. It's a false light, right? Have you ever, man? First time I started getting where I needed readers to see, you get older, and kind of like seems to be part of what goes on. I'm trying to see if I can stop mine from happening, but you do that. And I've got friends who got bifocals. Now I don't do those, but they got bifocals, and they were saying the hardest thing to do was to wear those glasses and try to go down steps because it skewed perception. And so what would happen was they would think that step was closer than it was, and so they would fall. And this is what happens when your own self-righteousness gets in the way. It's just like my friend Faye and her blindness. You can't see clearly, and so you begin to imagine those things which aren't there. So evolution is a darkness, right? You go talk to an atheist who's entrenched in evolution. They can't see that design demands a designer. They can't look at creation, which God says is clear evidence that I am God and that there is a God. They can't see that. Is it because it's not visible? No, it's visible. It's there. It's their perception of it. They want to perceive that it was made out of nothing. So the problem for them isn't more creation. The problem with them is their perception. Wake up and realize that your logic of something from nothing makes zero sense. But that if it's intricately made and it's in a design, then it demands that someone made it. Things don't naturally fall into place. And so those are what they are. Self-righteousness is the same way. That's why leading some religious people to Christ is hard. Because they think themselves to be moral. Gandhi was that man, right? I like the teachings of Jesus. If there were someone who followed those teachings, if their people followed, maybe I'd be interested. He was so entrenched in his self-righteousness that he couldn't see that his life could match Jesus if he wished it so, if he spent his entire time on this earth doing so. Religion won't get you there. Self-righteousness, moral people. Listen, there's so many people out there that think they're moral, and because they think they're moral, they equate that with being good enough. What is that? It's an I issue. That's what's going on. Satan loves to do that. Satan is an angel of light. He masquerades as light. And so this is what he says in verse 35 when it says, so your eye is the lamp. Then verse 35, so watch out that the light in you is not darkness. Evolution is a darkness, but they perceive it as enlightened, right? Self-righteousness is a darkness, but they perceive themselves as better than everybody else. Religion, morality is a darkness, but it's perceived as light to them, right? I mean, I'm good, I'm moral, right? You think it's light, but your perception is wrong. And then he comes to verse 36 and he says, therefore, if your whole body is full of light without any dark part, it will be wholly illuminated, as when the lamp illuminates you with its light. Listen, if you have a hunger for righteousness and a hunger for truth, and you know there's more, then that light in you will become real light. You'll realize this evolution is wrong. The self-righteousness is wrong. These aren't lights at all. These are bad bulbs. And I'm going to get the right. So the eyes, that's why Paul prays, I pray that the eyes of your heart may be opened, that may be enlightened, right? This is what the prayer is. Pray that God would open the eyes of your heart, right? We sing that song, open the eyes of my heart, right? That's the message today. Lord bless you guys. Man, we're going to jump into some woes and have, man, it's a blistering time in the morning. Lord bless you. Have a good one. I'll see you then.